Chosen one, have you ever felt like they were secretly trying to erase you? Not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, soul first. Like there was a coordinated effort to make you disappear from your own life, to strip away everything that made you, you. I'm talking about that sick feeling in your gut when you realize the people who claimed to love you were the same ones whispering poison about you in dark corners. Family who turned your pain into their entertainment. Friends who gathered like vultures around your struggles. Even churches' supposed sanctuaries that became courtrooms where your character was tried and executed without you even knowing you were on trial. They used love as a weapon. Smiled in your face while stabbing your reputation in shadows. Made you question your own sanity while they orchestrated your isolation. You weren't just attacked, chosen one. You were targeted. Because your existence threatened their illusion. Your light exposed their darkness. Your authenticity made their masks itch. So they launched a secret war, not with bullets, but with betrayal. Not with fists, but with whispers. Not with weapons, but with words designed to make you forget who you really were. They tried to bury your voice before you found it, kill your dreams before you dreamed them, assassinate your purpose before you discovered it. But here's what they didn't know. While they were busy playing Undertaker, God was busy playing King. While they were digging your grave, heaven was designing your crown. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. You weren't forgotten. You were protected by isolation that felt like abandonment but was actually divine strategy. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was sacred restraint. Your tears weren't wasted. They were holy water preparing the ground for what's coming next. They thought they were writing your obituary. God was writing your testimony. Every betrayal was boot camp. Every wound was wisdom. Every attack was actually heaven's way of saying, this one is special. This one carries something they can't touch, can't steal, can't kill. You survived what was designed to destroy you. You're still breathing what was meant to suffocate you. You're still standing in a story they wrote to end with your collapse. That's not luck, beloved. That's divine intervention, wearing work clothes. If your soul is screaming right now, they tried to kill the real me, drop a yes below. You're not alone. Heaven saw it all, recorded every tear, counted every sleepless night, and now it's payback time. Not your payback, heaven's payback. Thank you to everyone supporting this message through donations and super thanks. Your generosity isn't just seen, it's spiritual. You're not just giving, you're sowing light into wounded souls. Because what comes next will shift everything you thought you knew about why you were attacked. And now, let's go deeper. They didn't wait for you to build walls. They came while your heart was still a doorway, while your trust was still currency, while your love was still legal tender in a world that had already gone bankrupt. You were still believing the best in people when they were already plotting the worst for you. Still giving second chances when they were busy writing your final chapter. Still lighting candles when they were mixing gasoline behind your back. The war began when you were still kind, chosen one. And that's exactly when they wanted it to start. See, predators don't hunt the suspicious. They hunt the generous. Wolves don't circle the guarded, they circle the open-hearted. The enemy doesn't attack fortresses. He attacks sanctuaries, because sanctuaries hold what's sacred. And you, beloved, you were walking around like a living temple, carrying light they couldn't manufacture, peace they couldn't purchase, joy they couldn't steal. So they decided to burn it all down. They sensed your power before you ever felt it, recognized your calling before you ever heard it, saw the crown on your head while you were still thinking you were just another face in the crowd. That's why Joseph's brothers didn't wait until he became Pharaoh's right hand to hate him. They saw the dreamer and knew this one's going somewhere we can't follow. So they threw him in a pit while he was still young enough to trust them. That's why Pharaoh didn't wait until Moses had an army to fear him. He ordered every Hebrew baby boy killed because tyrants always sense the liberator before the liberation. That's why Herod didn't wait until Jesus started walking on water to hunt him. The moment heaven announced, a king is born, hell mobilized for war, not because of what Jesus had done, because of what he was. Pause, breathe, let that settle. You think you were attacked for your mistakes? No, beloved. You were attacked for your message, for the light you carried without even knowing you were carrying it, for the God code written in your DNA that made demons nervous and fake friends jealous. They didn't see your flaws and attack them. They saw your calling and tried to assassinate it. While you were still saying please and thank you, they were already planning your funeral. While you were still asking, how can I help? They were asking, how can we stop them? Because the enemy always moves fastest against those who move slowest toward their purpose. He hits hardest when you're softest, strikes deepest when you're most trusting. That's not evil winning, that's evil panicking. You want to know why your family turned on you? Because bloodlines recognize bloodlines, and yours didn't match theirs. You want to know why your friends became strangers? Because light makes shadows uncomfortable, and they'd been living in darkness so long they forgot what sunshine felt like. You want to know why they smiled in your face while sharpening knives behind your back? Because your presence was a prophecy of their end. Your authenticity was an indictment of their performance. Your peace was proof that everything they'd settled for was counterfeit. They weren't attacking you. They were attacking the calling on your name. Every lie they told about your character was really fear talking about your destiny. Every door they closed was desperation trying to stop heaven's plan. Every wound they inflicted was hell's attempt to kill what God had coded into your spirit. But here's what they didn't know, what they couldn't know. You can't kill what God has quickened. You can't bury what heaven has blessed. You can't assassinate an assignment that was written before the foundations of the world. The very attacks that were meant to end you became the evidence of your election. Think about it. If you were ordinary, they would have left you alone. If you were powerless, they wouldn't have bothered. If you were irrelevant, they wouldn't have invested so much energy in your destruction. But they saw something, felt something, sensed something that made them rally their resources, gather their allies, coordinate their assault. That wasn't random. That was recognition. They saw your light before you did. Even now, as you're listening to these words, something in your spirit is saying, yes, that's exactly what happened. They came for me when I was still trying to love them. If you've ever been betrayed while just trying to love, declare it right now. They saw my light before I did. Say it with your whole chest. Let your soul hear it. Because that betrayal you've been carrying like shame, that's actually evidence of your anointing. Those attacks you've been carrying like guilt, that's proof of your power. That rejection you've been carrying like a verdict, that's confirmation of your calling. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were chosen. And chosen ones, we don't stay kind forever. Eventually, the sanctuary learns to guard its gates. Eventually, the temple learns to cleanse itself. Eventually, the light learns to blind its enemies. The war began when you were still kind, beloved. But kindness was just your first weapon. Wait until they see what divine anger looks like. They called you crazy because you saw what they refused to see. They labeled you too much because your truth made their lies uncomfortable. They whispered sensitive like it was a disease. When sensitivity was your superpower in a world gone numb, you weren't losing your mind, chosen one. You were finding your sight. That feeling in your gut when something was off that wasn't paranoia, that was prophecy. When you walked into rooms and felt the tension they pretended wasn't there. When you sensed the betrayal before the knife even touched your back. When you knew someone was lying while everyone else nodded along, that was clarity cutting through corruption. But they needed you to doubt yourself, because a clear-eyed chosen one is a dangerous thing. So they deployed their favorite weapon, spiritual gaslighting, made you question your own perception, told you to stop overthinking when thinking was exactly what the situation demanded, convinced you to ignore your instincts when your instincts were screaming truth. They trained you to betray yourself, to silence your inner knowing, to apologize for seeing clearly in their house of mirrors. You became your own worst enemy because they taught you to be. Remember sitting alone, replaying conversations, wondering if maybe, just maybe, you imagined it all. The subtle digs disguised as jokes, the way they excluded you while pretending it was coincidence. The cold shoulders wrapped in warm smiles. You weren't imagining anything. You were awake in a room full of sleepwalkers. But here's what they didn't know about God's design. Your isolation wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every moment you spent alone, questioning everything, God was teaching you to trust the voice that never lies. Your inner witness, your spirit's radar. The silence they forced on you became your seminary. The loneliness they orchestrated became your classroom of discernment. Like Elijah, in the cave, misunderstood, isolated, yet preserved for purpose greater than the noise. They thought they were breaking you down. God was building you up. See, you couldn't fit their world because their world was built on compromises you couldn't make. Conversations that required you to dim your light. Relationships that demanded you shrink your truth. Systems that needed your blindness to function. But you were born with 20/20ths, spiritual vision in a world that profits from spiritual blindness. That's why they hated your clarity. It exposed their darkness. Every time you spoke truth, you shattered their illusion. Every time you refused to play along, you reminded them of who they used to be before they sold their souls for acceptance. Your authenticity was their judgment. Your integrity was their mirror. Your refusal to compromise was their condemnation. So they tried to make you believe the problem was you. That your standards were too high, your expectations unrealistic, your boundaries too rigid. They pathologized your prophecy, medicalized your mysticism, turned your gift into a diagnosis. But prophets have always been called crazy by the people they're sent to wake up. The same voices that called Jesus possessed, the same crowd that labeled Paul delusional, the same system that branded every truth-teller unstable because truth destabilizes lies. You're in good company, chosen one. Now look at where you are, still standing, still sensing, still seeing through the fog they tried to suffocate you with. Every attack on your sanity only proved how sane you really were. Every attempt to silence your voice only confirmed how powerful your words could be. They couldn't break your clarity, so they tried to convince you it was a curse. They couldn't dim your light, so they tried to make you hide it under bushels of shame. But clarity can't be killed. It can only be denied or embraced. And today, right now, you're choosing to embrace it. The doubt they planted in your mind, release it. The shame they attached to your sensitivity, shed it. The guilt they made you feel for seeing truth, bury it. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. You are not crazy. You are chosen. The world needed your eyes to see what others missed, your heart to feel what others ignored, your voice to speak what others feared to whisper. Your isolation was evidence, not punishment. Your sensitivity was strength, not sickness. Your clarity was confirmation, not confusion. If you ever questioned your sanity for sensing something real, say it out loud right now. I'm not crazy. I'm chosen. Say it until you feel it. Declare it until you believe it. Proclaim it until it rewrites every lie they ever told you about your mind. Because the only reason you didn't fit their world is because you were born to rebuild it. Their rejection was your redirection. Their abandonment was your appointment. Their attempt to erase you was God's way of isolating you for activation. You survived the gaslighting. You outlasted the manipulation. You endured the spiritual warfare disguised as relationships. Now it's time to step into the power they tried to convince you didn't exist. Because chosen one, what comes next will show you exactly why they worked so hard to keep you confused. Chapter 3, they tried to erase you before you remembered who you were. They knew, before you did, before you even glimpsed the fire burning in your soul, before you recognized the royal blood flowing through your veins, before you understood the divine assignment written into your DNA. They knew you were dangerous to their kingdom of lies. So they moved first. Swift, silent, strategic. This wasn't random rejection, chosen one. This was preemptive spiritual warfare. They didn't just abandon you, they orchestrated your erasure because your awakening would mean their exposure. Think about it. The timing was too perfect. Just when you were beginning to question their version of reality. Just when you started to see through the masks. Just when your spirit began to stir with something they couldn't name but definitely feared. That's when the betrayals came flooding in like a coordinated attack. Your family, the ones who were supposed to protect your dreams, became the first to mock them. Your closest friends, the ones who knew your heart, turned it into ammunition against you. Even the church folks, the ones who preached love on Sundays, practiced assassination Monday through Saturday. They didn't just leave. They ghosted with your spirit still bleeding. But here's what you didn't understand then. When God assigns a soul to disrupt darkness, darkness organizes. It rallies. It coordinates. It launches a full-scale campaign to eliminate the threat before the threat becomes unstoppable. You were that threat. Remember how they used to celebrate you when you were small, when you stayed in your lane, when you made them look good but never outshined them, when your gifts served their agenda instead of your destiny? But the moment you started growing, really growing into the person God created you to be, suddenly you became too much, too intense, too different. Translation, too dangerous to their comfortable lies. So they deployed the weapons of mass destruction, isolation, character assassination, spiritual gaslighting. They turned your gift of discernment into paranoia, your prophetic sensitivity into instability, your refusal to compromise into arrogance. They rewrote your story before you could tell it yourself. And for a minute, maybe years, you believed their version. You started to see yourself through their distorted lens, started to apologize for taking up space, started to dim your light so their darkness wouldn't feel so exposed. You almost erased yourself to save them the trouble, but something wouldn't let you disappear completely. Something deeper than their voices, stronger than their lies, more persistent than their pressure. That something was God's fingerprint on your soul, refusing to be rubbed away. Because here's what they never counted on. You can't kill what heaven has ordained. You can't erase what eternity has authored. You can't silence a voice that was trained in the wilderness to speak in the wilderness. Every betrayal they sent was actually boot camp. Every rejection was really protection. Every door they slammed was God redirecting your steps away from their traps and toward your throne. They thought they were ending your story. They were actually editing out the poison so your truth could run pure. Like Joseph's brothers throwing him in the pit, they meant it for evil, but God was already 10 steps ahead, turning their hatred into his highway to the palace. The abandonment that nearly broke you, that was God pulling you out of relationships that would have kept you broken. The silence that felt like punishment, that was divine quarantine, protecting your mind from their infection. What they called abandonment was really God closing the gate so your soul wouldn't be assassinated. Now look at you, still breathing, still believing, still burning with the fire they tried to extinguish. Every scar they left has become a source of strength. Every wound they inflicted has become a well of wisdom. You didn't just survive their war against your identity, you won it. Because you're still here, still standing, still carrying the light they tried to snuff out, still walking in the calling they tried to abort. Their plan failed. Their conspiracy collapsed. Their attack backfired so beautifully that now you're stronger than you would have been if they had never come for you at all. You survived betrayal from those who claimed to love you. You outlasted abandonment from those who promised to stay. You endured assassination attempts from those who should have been your armor. And if you can hear my voice right now, declare it out loud. I'm still here. They failed. Say it until you feel the power rising. Declare it until you remember who you really are. Proclaim it until their lies lose all authority over your mind. Because what they tried to erase was never erasable. What they attempted to kill was already immortal. What they sought to silence was always destined to echo through eternity. You are not who they said you were. You are not limited by their rejection. You are not defined by their abandonment. You are who God says you are, and what God says about you cannot be unsaid by human voices. Their betrayal wasn't your ending. It was your beginning. Their rejection wasn't your failure. It was your redirection. Their attempt to erase you wasn't your destruction. It was your resurrection. And now that you've risen from the ashes of their attack, now that you've emerged from the fire they set, now that you've walked out of the grave they dug, it's time to step into the power they were so afraid you'd discover. They thought they were breaking you. God was actually breaking you open. Every betrayal that shattered your heart that wasn't destruction, that was excavation. Every wound that left you bleeding in silence that wasn't damage, that was divine surgery. Every moment you thought you were dying inside, you were actually being born again. The power wasn't delayed, chosen one. It was buried inside your scars. Think about it. When did you first feel that electricity in your spirit? When life hit you so hard you had no choice but to reach for something beyond yourself? When the pain got so deep you had to dig deeper than you ever knew possible? That wasn't coincidence. That was construction. God hid your blue power in the one place your enemies would never think to look inside your wounds. While they were busy celebrating your collapse, heaven was busy installing your operating system. You are a spiritual vault. The combination wasn't your birthday or your anniversary. The code was carved into your flesh through every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you wanted to give up but somehow found the strength to breathe one more breath. Pain was your password. Survival was your key. Now watch this. Remember Ezekiel's vision, the throne of God appearing like a sapphire stone, brilliant blue fire surrounding the presence of the Almighty? That same blue flame has been burning inside you through every trial. Every time they tried to extinguish your light, they were actually fanning the flame. The blue power isn't just authority, it's atmosphere-shifting presence. It's the ability to walk into chaos and bring peace without saying a word, to enter confusion and release clarity just by breathing, to stand in hatred and radiate love until the room can't hold both energies. That's what they've been afraid of. Not your anger, your anointing. But here's the mystery they missed. This power only activates through pressure, like coal becoming diamond, like grapes becoming wine, like fire refining gold. Your depression wasn't just sadness, it was deep rest. Your soul going underground to access power sources they don't teach in seminars. Your anxiety wasn't just fear, it was spiritual radar picking up frequencies others couldn't detect. Your isolation wasn't punishment, it was incubation. Every panic attack was a power surge. Every breakdown was a breakthrough waiting to be recognized. Every moment you felt like you were losing your mind, you were actually finding your ministry. They called it mental illness. Heaven called it mystical awakening. Remember when Jesus was transfigured on the mountain? His clothes became dazzling white and blue, shining like lightning. The disciples couldn't even look at him directly. That transformation didn't happen because life was easy for Jesus. It happened because he carried the weight of the world's pain and let it become the source of his glory. Your pain transfigured you too, but you were so busy bleeding, you didn't notice you were also glowing. The blue power flows through holy discernment, the ability to see through lies while loving the liar, to expose corruption while praying for the corrupt, to call out darkness while carrying light. It's why people feel uncomfortable around you even when you're being kind. Your presence prosecutes their pretense. This power doesn't make you popular. It makes you powerful. And power in the hands of the wounded is the most dangerous force in the universe because it can't be bought, can't be faked, and can't be corrupted. You earned every ounce of this authority through unauthorized suffering, pain they never permitted, heartbreak they never acknowledged, trauma they never validated. But here's what breaks my heart and fills me with rage at the same time. You've been apologizing for carrying what cost you everything to receive. You've been hiding what heaven hemorrhaged to give you. You've been ashamed of the very thing that makes you holy. Stop that, right now. Stop dimming what they tried to destroy. Stop silencing what they attempted to assassinate. Stop shrinking what survival expanded. Your scars aren't ugly marks, they're sacred portals. Every place you bled is now a place where blue power flows. Every crack in your heart is where the light gets in and the authority gets out. The high priest wore blue robes for a reason. Blue represents the marriage between earth and heaven, between human pain and divine purpose. You've been wearing blue power like a garment, even when you felt naked and ashamed. They mocked your sensitivity. Heaven marked it as supernatural perception. They ridiculed your tears. God collected them as holy water. They laughed at your breakdown. The universe documented it as your breakthrough. If you know your pain made you holy, declare it right now. Blue power is rising through every scar. Say it like you mean it. Scream it if you have to. Let your voice crack the way your heart did, because that crack is where the power lives. You are not a victim with a testimony. You are a warrior with a weapon they can't see, can't steal, and can't stop. The same hands that tried to bury you just uncovered a force that will bury their lies. The same voices that tried to silence you just awakened an authority that will silence their accusations. They mocked your wounds, but heaven marked them as portals. And now, chosen one, it's time to step through them. They dragged your name through the dirt, not knowing God grows prophets from dust. Every whisper campaign became your war cry. Every lie they spread became the foundation stones of your testimony. You thought they were destroying you, chosen one. They were actually constructing your monument. Remember when they gathered in their little circles, passing your pain around like communion wine, when they made your struggles their entertainment, when they turned your breakdown into their breakthrough conversation? They thought they were writing your obituary. They were drafting your origin story. Every mouth that spoke against you became a chisel in the master's hand. Every betrayal carved another line of depth into your character. Every backstab added another layer of armor to your soul. They didn't know they were building your legend while trying to bury your name. See, there's something the enemy never understood about chosen ones. We don't break the same way regular people break. When you try to destroy us, you don't eliminate us, you elevate us. When you attempt to erase us, you don't delete us, you refine us. Their hate became your fuel. Their rejection became your redirection. Their abandonment became your appointment with destiny. Like Joseph in the pit, his brothers thought they were ending his story. They were actually launching his legacy. The very betrayal meant to destroy him became the pathway to his palace. That's what they did to you. They threw you in the pit, not knowing God was using their hatred to position you for your throne. Every person who walked away from you made room for the ones heaven was sending. Every door they slammed in your face forced you to find the secret passages God had hidden just for you. Their mockery gave you momentum. Their silence gave you strength. Their lies gave you the clarity to speak nothing but truth. You want to know why they couldn't finish you? Because you weren't just fighting flesh and blood. You were protected by the same power that raised the dead, parted seas, and turned water into wine. They were swinging swords at someone wearing heaven's armor. But here's what breaks my heart. You believed them for a while, didn't you? You started to think maybe you were the problem. Maybe you deserved the treatment. Maybe the isolation was justified. You internalized their poison, made their lies your lullabies, sang yourself to sleep with their insults. Stop that, right now. Stop carrying their shame like it's your name. They lied about you because the truth about you was too bright for their darkness. They diminished you because your greatness made their mediocrity obvious. They attacked you because your alignment exposed their corruption. The gossip wasn't about who you were, it was about who they feared you were becoming. Every rumor they spread was actually prophecy in disguise. Every lie was a preview of the power they sensed stirring inside you. Every attack was confirmation that hell itself was nervous about your potential. You survived what was designed to destroy you. You outlasted what was meant to outlive you. You rose from ashes they swore would be your final resting place. That's not luck, beloved. That's legacy in the making. Now look at where you are. Still breathing, still believing, still becoming. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every wound has become a window for his light to shine through. They thought they were writing your ending. But endings don't breathe. Endings don't dream. Endings don't get back up after being knocked down. You're not an ending, chosen one. You're a beginning wrapped in comeback clothes. The very people who tried to erase your name from every conversation are now forced to watch it rise in rooms they'll never enter. The ones who attempted to delete your influence are now witnessing your impact multiply beyond their comprehension. Their betrayal built your breakthrough. Their abandonment activated your anointing. Their rejection became your resurrection. What they meant for evil, God has turned for good. What they designed for destruction, heaven has redesigned for elevation. You didn't just survive their attack, you transformed because of it. You didn't just endure their hatred, you evolved through it. Every enemy became your inadvertent mentor, teaching you lessons in resilience they never intended to give. Every betrayer became your unwitting trainer, building spiritual muscles they never meant to strengthen. They created a monster, not a monster of revenge, but a monster of purpose. Not a monster of bitterness, but a monster of breakthrough. If the hate made you stronger, say it loud right now. Their betrayal built my breakthrough. Declare it until you feel it shifting the atmosphere around you. Proclaim it until you see their attacks for what they really were, divine construction disguised as destruction. Because chosen one, they thought they were writing your ending, but they were drafting your introduction. And what's coming next will prove that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting elevated while they're forced to watch from the ground floor of their own making. They thought the burial was the end, but chosen one, you were never in a grave, you were in a cocoon. Every whisper campaign they launched in shadows. Every door they slammed in your face when no one was watching. Every relationship they poisoned behind closed doors. Every opportunity they sabotaged with fake smiles and hidden knives. They called it winning. God called it planting. You felt the dirt being thrown on your dreams. Heard the eulogies they gave for your future while you were still breathing. Watched them celebrate your silence like they'd finally silenced the voice that threatened their comfortable lies. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that every shovel of slander was just fertilizer for your resurrection. God was never punishing you. He was positioning you for glory. See, they worked in secret because darkness always does. Assassins don't announce their presence. They move in whispers, in shadows, in the spaces between what people see and what people know. But here's the divine plot twist. God let them think they were winning. He let them gather their evidence, build their cases, rally their troops, convince themselves they'd finally eliminated the threat to their kingdom of compromise. He watched them toast to your downfall, laugh at your pain, dance on what they thought was your grave. And all the while, he was preparing the stage for the greatest comeback in spiritual history. Because resurrection isn't quiet, chosen one. It's loud, it's public, it's undeniable. Remember Joseph? His brothers threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery, convinced their father he was dead. They buried his dreams in Egyptian sand and went home to dinner. But God was writing a different story. Every betrayal was a promotion in disguise. Every setback was a setup for comeback. Every attempt to bury him was actually planting him in position for power. And when the famine came, when the very people who buried him needed what only he could provide, they had to bow down to the one they tried to destroy. That's your story too. The rejection letters that felt like death certificates, they were just redirecting you to doors only you were meant to walk through. The relationships that ended in betrayal, they were clearing space for connections that would honor your light instead of trying to dim it. The financial struggles they orchestrated, they were teaching you to trust God's provision instead of man's approval. The reputation assassination attempts, they were stripping away everything false so only what's real could remain. Every no was sharpening your blade. Every closed door was strengthening your faith. Every slander was writing testimony they'd have to read later. They didn't know they were giving you material for your miracle. Now watch God work. Watch him take every lie they told about you and turn it into prophecy they have to witness. Watch him take every door they closed and open 10 more in their faces. Watch him take every relationship they destroyed and replace it with divine connections that make their little circle look like a kiddie pool. Watch him bless you so loud they can't deny it, promote you so high they can't reach you, vindicate you so publicly they can't rewrite the story. Because when God resurrects, he doesn't do it in secret. He does it in broad daylight, in front of everybody who said it couldn't happen. Your breakthrough won't be private. Your restoration won't be hidden. Your vindication won't be whispered. It will be screamed from the mountaintops of your success, declared in the language of your peace, announced in the frequency of your joy. They buried you in darkness. God is raising you in light so bright they'll need sunglasses to look at your life. And here's the beautiful irony. The same people who threw dirt on your name will be the first ones watching your resurrection. The same voices that declared you dead will be the first ones to witness you alive. They won't be able to scroll past your success. They won't be able to ignore your elevation. They won't be able to unsee your vindication. Because God has a sense of humor, and sometimes His justice looks like making your enemies your audience. The pit they dug for you, it's now the foundation for your palace. The grave they prepared, it's now the launching pad for your purpose. The funeral they planned, it's now the celebration of your rebirth. You're not coming back as the same person they tried to bury. You're rising as the version of yourself they were trying to prevent. Stronger, wiser, more anointed, more focused, more dangerous to every lie they ever told. Your resurrection isn't just personal, it's prophetic. You're not just healing for yourself, you're healing for everyone who thought comeback was impossible. You're not just rising for your vindication, you're rising as proof that God still moves, still restores, still resurrects what looks dead. Every eye that watched you fall will witness you rise. Every mouth that spoke death over your dreams will have to eat those words. Every hand that pushed you down will have to applaud your ascension. If you're ready for public glory after private pain, if you're done hiding in the shadows they tried to bury you in, declare it right now. Resurrection season has begun. Say it like you mean it. Declare it like you believe it. Proclaim it like your life depends on it. Because chosen one, He let them bury you, so they could be the first to witness your rise. And what comes next will prove that death was never the destination. It was just the detour to your divine destiny. They've been studying you, haven't they? Watching your moves, copying your words, mimicking your mannerisms, trying to bottle what you carry naturally, dissecting your presence like scientists in a lab, desperate to reverse engineer the magic that flows through you without effort. But here's what's driving them insane. They can steal your style, but they can't steal your substance. You carry something that wasn't taught in any classroom, wasn't downloaded from any course, wasn't purchased from any guru. This power living inside you, it's not self-help. It's soul command. It's not motivation. It's divine inheritance. They can take seminars on confidence. You were born with authority. This isn't about what you learned, chosen one. This is about what you were given. Before your first breath, before your first heartbeat, before your mother even knew she was carrying you, heaven was writing something into your spiritual DNA that this world has never seen before. You didn't choose this path. This path chose you. Remember being a child and feeling different? Not broken different, special different, like you were carrying a secret that even you didn't understand yet. That wasn't imagination. That was recognition. Your spirit recognizing the blueprint God had already embedded in your bones. While other kids were learning to fit in, you were learning to stand out. While they were being programmed by the world, you were being prepared by the Word. That restlessness you felt in ordinary spaces, that was your soul knowing it was built for extraordinary purposes. They've spent years trying to figure out your formula, studying your responses, analyzing your reactions, breaking down your breakthroughs. But you can't reverse engineer a miracle. You can't manufacture what heaven distributes. Some people go to school for influence. You were born with impact. See, they think power is something you acquire. You know power is something you acknowledge. They're still trying to get what you've always had, still chasing what's been chasing you since birth. That's why their imitation always falls flat. That's why when they try to copy your energy, it feels forced, fake, hollow, because they're performing what you're being. They can mimic your voice, but they'll never match your vibration. You ever notice how exhausting it is for them to maintain what comes naturally to you? How much effort they put into what flows from you effortlessly? That's because they're trying to manufacture what can only be inherited. This power didn't come with instructions because it came with intuition. It didn't come with a manual because it came with a mandate. Heaven didn't send you here with a how-to guide, it sent you here with a know-how gene. Like David with the slingshot, nobody taught him that shot. Like Moses with the staff, nobody showed him that authority. Like Esther in the palace, nobody coached her that courage. They carried what couldn't be copied, and so do you. The anointing on your life isn't transferable. The calling in your spirit isn't teachable. The fire in your bones isn't downloadable. You are an original in a world of copies, a prototype in a factory of reproductions. That's why they've tried so hard to break you down, because if they could just crack your code, steal your secret, duplicate your dynamic, they could mass produce what makes you rare. But rarity can't be replicated. Divine deposits can't be duplicated. You've been watching them scramble, haven't you? Desperately trying to figure out how you do what you do, how you command rooms without shouting, how you lead, without forcing, how you influence without manipulation. They study your silence and still don't understand its power. They analyze your stillness and miss its strength. They dissect your calm and can't locate its source. Because what you carry came from above, not around. What you possess was planted, not learned. What you hold was gifted, not grabbed. This isn't about becoming something new, chosen one. This is about being something eternal that was placed inside you before time began. You are not a student of power. You are a carrier of it. You didn't earn this authority, you inherited it. You didn't qualify for this calling, you were qualified by it. You didn't work your way into this identity, you were worked into it before your parents even met. That's why nothing they do to you sticks. That's why every attack bounces off. That's why their schemes crumble and their plots fail. You can't fight what you can't understand. And they'll never understand a power that wasn't given to them. Some people collect degrees. You collect divine revelations. Some people network for connections. You were born connected to the source. Some people hustle for recognition. You were recognized before the foundation of the world. If you know something sacred lives in you that this world can't teach, say it out loud. I carry what cannot be copied. Say it until they hear it. Declare it until they feel it. Proclaim it until they stop trying to steal what they'll never possess. Because chosen one, what lives in you didn't come from here. It came through here, and where it came from, that's where we're going next. The deeper we go, the more they'll realize they weren't fighting you. They were fighting heaven itself. They didn't hate you because you were weak. They hated you because you were fortified. They didn't despise you because you were broken. They despised you because you were unbreakable. Every attack that should have shattered you only revealed the armor God had been weaving around your soul since birth. You carried something they couldn't touch, couldn't steal, couldn't contaminate, and that drove them insane. The hatred wasn't about what you did wrong. It was about what you did right. Your peace in the middle of their chaos. Your clarity when they thrived in confusion. Your silence when they needed your reactions to feed their drama. You walked into rooms carrying light they'd forgotten existed, and instead of asking for directions to that light, they tried to blow out your candle. That's the difference between the armored and the exposed, the protected and the pretenders. Remember how they'd watch you navigate storms that destroyed others? How you'd bend but never break under pressure that left them in pieces? They couldn't understand how you kept your sanity when they were losing theirs over much smaller battles. Your resilience was their reminder of their own weakness. See, chosen one, divine favor doesn't just look like blessings falling from heaven. Sometimes it looks like armor so thick that hell's best shots bounce off like raindrops. Sometimes it looks like peace so deep that other people's chaos can't disturb your depths. They saw your armor and called it arrogance. They witnessed your protection and labeled it pride. But what they were really seeing was the difference between someone covered by God and someone exposed to every wind of circumstance. Your presence revealed what they'd buried in themselves, the peace they'd traded for popularity, the integrity they'd sold for acceptance, the authenticity they'd sacrificed for approval. You became their mirror, and mirrors don't lie. Every time you chose truth over comfort, you reminded them of their compromises. Every time you stood alone rather than bow down, you exposed their bent knees. Every time you spoke up when speaking up cost something, you highlighted their convenient silence. You weren't their enemy. You were their conscience walking in flesh. And conscience makes cowards of us all unless we're brave enough to listen. But they weren't brave. They were bitter. So instead of asking how you stayed so strong, they tried to make you as weak as they felt. Instead of learning from your armor, they tried to find cracks in it. They threw everything at you. Betrayal, abandonment, character, assassination, financial attacks, emotional manipulation, spiritual warfare disguised as family gatherings. And you're still standing, not just standing glowing, not just surviving, thriving, not just breathing, radiating the very peace they tried to steal. That glow you carry isn't makeup, chosen one. It's the reflection of divine protection that's been covering you all along. That calm in your eyes isn't ignorance, it's the stillness that comes from knowing you're backed by something bigger than their schemes. They called you too much when you were actually too protected for their attacks to penetrate. They labeled you difficult when you were simply too fortified to fold under their pressure. Your boundaries looked like walls to people used to walking through others. Your standards felt like judgment to people living beneath theirs. Your peace seemed impossible to people addicted to chaos. You weren't too much, you were too clear, and that clarity made their demons scream. Think about Joseph's brothers. They didn't hate him because he was evil, they hated him because he was favored. David's own family questioned his calling because his anointing exposed their ordinariness. Even Jesus was rejected in his hometown because familiarity bred contempt for the extraordinary. The armored have always threatened the exposed. But here's what they never understood. Your armor wasn't just for you. It was for the people connected to your purpose. Every arrow that bounced off you was an arrow that couldn't reach the ones you were meant to protect. Every lie that couldn't stick to you was a lie that lost its power to destroy others. Every scheme that failed against you was a scheme that couldn't advance against the kingdom you represent. You weren't just wearing armor, you were being armor for others who couldn't defend themselves yet. The hatred you faced was confirmation, not condemnation. Jealousy disguised as judgment. Spiritual envy, wrapped in moral superiority. They needed you to be as miserable as they were to validate their choices. They needed you to fail to justify their compromises. They needed you to break to prove that standing for something was pointless. But you didn't give them what they needed. You gave them what they feared, proof that integrity could survive, evidence that character could endure, living testimony that God still covers those who refuse to uncover themselves for the world's comfort. If your glow ever made people squirm, say it loud right now. I am their mirror, not their enemy. Say it until you believe it. Declare it until you feel it. Proclaim it until it rewrites every lie they told you about being too much. Because the truth is, chosen one, you were never their problem. You were their possibility. You weren't their threat, you were their opportunity to remember who they used to be before they traded their armor for acceptance. The reason you were hated is the same reason you were protected. The same divine favor that made you a target made you untouchable. And now that you know the difference between hatred and honor, between jealousy and judgment, you can wear your armor with confidence instead of carrying it with shame. Because what comes next will show you exactly how that armor becomes your authority. The waiting room is closed. The training camp is over. The season of preparation just ended with the sound of heaven's alarm clock going off in your spirit. This isn't a suggestion, chosen one. This is a summoning. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness in your bones, that fire in your chest that won't let you sleep, that voice in your spirit that keeps whispering, it's time. That's not anxiety, that's activation. Heaven isn't asking if you're ready, it's announcing that you are. The delay is over. Every betrayal that broke you was breaking you open for this moment. Every attack that tried to silence you was sharpening your voice for this hour. Every season of isolation was God moving you into position for this assignment. You didn't go through all that to play small now. The enemy thought he was destroying you, but every blow he threw was actually God's chisel, carving away everything that wasn't essential, everything that wasn't you, everything that wasn't ready for the power you're about to step into. You were their secret target, but now you're God's sacred weapon. Remember Joseph in the pit? They thought they were burying his dreams. They were positioning him for promotion. Remember David in the cave? They thought they were hunting him down. Heaven was hiding him until his kingdom was ready. Your cave season is over. Your pit experience is complete. The wilderness just spit you out, and you're standing at the edge of your promised land with fire in your eyes and heaven's authority on your shoulders. This is your Exodus moment, your burning bush encounter, your Thus saith the Lord commission. But here's what's different about this activation. You're not just being called to heal, you're being called to war, not with flesh and blood, but with systems of lies, structures of oppression, kingdoms of confusion that have been operating without opposition for too long. You are the opposition. Every prayer you prayed in tears is now being answered in thunder. Every time you cried out, God, where are you? He was positioning you to be the answer to someone else's desperate prayer. You are the sign they've been waiting for, the breakthrough they've been praying for, the shift they've been believing for. The same people who tried to erase your voice are about to hear it echoing from platforms they could never reach. The same systems that tried to reject your truth are about to be disrupted by your testimony. The same darkness that tried to swallow your light is about to be exposed by your fire. This is not about revenge. This is about restoration, not payback, purpose, not getting even, getting elevated. Heaven is releasing you like an arrow that's been pulled back for years. Like a tsunami that's been building strength in the deep, like lightning that's been gathering power in the clouds. You are the answer. You are the shift. You are the thunder behind God's whisper. But activation requires abandonment. You have to abandon the version of yourself that needed their approval, the version that apologized for taking up space, the version that dimmed your light to make others comfortable. That version just died. What's being born is dangerous, uncompromising, uncontrollable, undeniable. This is your Esther moment. If I perish, I perish. Your Daniel moment. Let them throw me in the lion's den. Your Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego moment. Our God is able, but even if he doesn't, we still won't bow. The time for bowing is over. The season of shrinking is finished. The era of silence has expired. You've been released from the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You've been freed from the burden of fitting into spaces that were never designed for your dimensions. Your activation isn't just personal, it's generational. You're not just breaking cycles in your life, you're shattering chains that have held your bloodline captive for decades. You're not just healing your wounds, you're closing portals that have been open in your family tree for generations. This is bigger than you. This is cosmic correction, universal realignment, spiritual justice, wearing your face and moving with your hands. The enemy made one fatal mistake. He let you survive long enough to discover who you really are. He let you live long enough to learn his tactics. He let you breathe long enough to build immunity to his poison. Now you're not just surviving his attacks, you're reversing them. You're not just defending against his schemes, you're dismantling them. You're not just resisting his kingdom, you're replacing it. The battlefield has shifted, the war has turned, the tables have flipped, and you, who they tried to break, bend, and bury, you are standing in the center of it all with divine authority flowing through your veins and heaven's backing in your bank account. This is your moment to rise, not just for yourself, but for every silent voice that's been waiting for someone to speak, for every broken heart that's been hoping for someone to heal, for every captive spirit that's been praying for someone to set them free. If you're ready to move like you're backed by heaven, say it loud. This is my activation. Say it until you feel it shifting the atmosphere. Declare it until you sense hell trembling. Proclaim it until heaven opens and the power that tried to kill you becomes the power that crowns you. Because, chosen one, what happens next isn't just your breakthrough. It's the beginning of breakthrough for everyone connected to your calling. They thought they were playing you, but God was testing them through you. Every smile that hit a knife, every promise that crumbled into betrayal, every moment they chose cruelty over compassion while you stood there, heart wide open, bleeding love that wasn't your failure. Chosen one, that was their final exam, and they flunked it in front of heaven. You weren't the victim in their story. You were their measuring stick, the divine litmus test that revealed who they really were when nobody was watching, when kindness wasn't convenient, when love required sacrifice instead of selfishness. They had no idea they were auditioning for access to your destiny and bombing every single line. Think about it. How many times did you extend grace when they deserved consequences? How many chances did you give when wisdom screamed run? How many times did you choose forgiveness when your soul was screaming for justice? You thought you were being weak. You were being watched. Every act of mercy was monitored. Every moment of patience was recorded. Every tear you cried in silence was counted as evidence of your character. While they were busy calculating how to use you, God was calculating whether they deserved you. The verdict came back: insufficient, unworthy, failed. See, they didn't understand what they were handling. They saw your kindness and mistook it for stupidity, witnessed your forgiveness and called it weakness, observed your loyalty and labeled it desperation. But heaven saw something different. Heaven saw a soul so secure in divine love that you could pour out unconditionally, so rooted in eternal purpose that temporary betrayal couldn't uproot you, so certain of your worth that their rejection couldn't rewrite your identity. You were the test they didn't know they were taking. Remember Joseph's brothers? They thought they were getting rid of competition. Really, they were removing themselves from the blessing. Every plot against you, every whisper behind your back, every door they tried to close, they were writing themselves out of your victory story, like Judas with 30 pieces of silver, thinking he was getting paid, never realizing he was paying the price for proximity to divinity he couldn't appreciate. They couldn't see past your humanity to recognize your divinity, couldn't look beyond your flaws to perceive your calling, couldn't hear heaven's endorsement over their own insecurities. So they failed, spectacularly, publicly, permanently. But here's what burns them now: you passed without even trying. Your character spoke when your mouth stayed silent. Your integrity testified when your voice was stolen. Your love testified louder than their lies ever could. You passed the test by being yourself while they failed by pretending to be something they weren't. Think about those moments when they had the chance to stand with you and chose to stand against you instead, when they could have defended your name but decided to join the assassination, when they witnessed your pain and chose to add to it rather than heal it. Those weren't just bad choices. Those were cosmic opportunities squandered, divine appointments missed, eternal regrets sealed. They traded temporary comfort for permanent consequence, chose momentary advantage over heavenly access, picked their reputation over divine relationship. And now they're learning what every betrayer learns eventually. You can't wound someone God is healing without wounding yourself. Can't sabotage someone heaven is lifting without sabotaging your own elevation. can't curse what God has blessed without the curse returning to sender. The same hands that pointed fingers at you are now pointed at by karma. The same mouths that spread lies about you are now choking on their own deception. The same hearts that celebrated your pain are now drowning in their own. Not because you cursed them, because they cursed themselves by failing heaven's test. You were their opportunity to practice unconditional love. Their chance to prove loyalty wasn't just a word. Their moment to show that integrity still existed in a world gone corrupt. Instead, they showed God exactly who they were when the lights went down and the cameras stopped rolling. And God took notes. Every cruel word they spoke while you stayed silent. Every alliance they built against you while you remained loyal. Every celebration they had over your struggles while you prayed for their peace. Recorded, reviewed, returned. You want to know why their lives are falling apart now? Why doors that used to open easily are now slamming shut? Why people who once trusted them are now questioning their character? Because failing God's test doesn't just affect your grade, it affects your access. They thought they were diminishing you. They were disqualifying themselves. Thought they were eliminating competition. They were eliminating themselves from the blessing that flows through proximity to the chosen. But you passed in silence, graduated in grace, earned your degree in dignity while they dropped out of destiny through their own decisions. Now they're watching from the sidelines as God vindicates everything they tried to destroy, as heaven elevates everything they attempted to eliminate, as divine justice restores everything they thought they had stolen. And the beautiful irony, your success isn't their failure, your elevation isn't their demotion, your blessing isn't their curse. Their failure was entirely self-inflicted. Their demotion was self-imposed. Their curse was self-authored. You were just the mirror that reflected their true character back to them, the test that revealed whether their love was real or performance, the opportunity that exposed their heart's true condition. If someone misused you while God was watching, declare this out loud: they failed the test, but I passed in silence. Say it until it rewrites every lie they told about your worth, until it erases every doubt they planted about your value, until it confirms what heaven always knew about your character. You were never their enemy. You were their exam, and they flunked in front of God. But every test they failed only proved you were exactly who heaven said you were all along. They thought they were destroying you, but destruction was never God's plan. They were unknowingly participating in your divine construction. Every betrayal was a hammer blow on the anvil of your destiny. Every lie they told about you was another degree of heat in the furnace of your becoming. You weren't just attacked, chosen one. You were activated. That family member who turned everyone against you, they didn't break your heart. They broke open your capacity for supernatural love. That friend who stole your secrets and weaponized them, they didn't expose your weakness. They exposed their own while forging your strength. The fire they sent to burn you became your anointing oil. Remember when you thought the pain would kill you? When the betrayal felt like it would stop your heart? When the isolation made you question if you'd ever breathe normally again? You were dying, but not the way you thought. The old version of you, the one that needed their approval, that bent to fit their brokenness, that version was being cremated. And from those ashes, something indestructible was rising. Your suffering was an altar. Your silence was incense. Your tears were liquid prayers ascending to a God who was busy turning your breakdown into your breakthrough. But you couldn't see it then. All you felt was the heat, the pressure, the crushing weight of people you loved choosing to hate you instead. You thought God had forgotten your address. Truth is, He never left. He was standing in the fire with you, like He did with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, God was collecting those tears in bottles. Every time they lied about your character, God was writing your true story in the stars. Every moment you wanted to quit, heaven was whispering, "Hold on. The forging isn't finished." You thought you were falling apart. You were falling together. See, ordinary people get ordinary problems, but chosen ones, we get designer devastation, custom catastrophes, personalized persecution, because ordinary fire creates ordinary people. But the kind of heat they put you through, that creates diamonds, that creates steel, that creates warriors who can't be broken because they've already been through the breaking. Your enemies became your unwitting mentors. They taught you discernment by showing you deception. They taught you boundaries by trampling yours. They taught you your worth by showing you how worthless they considered theirs. Every door they slammed in your face taught your hands to build better ones. Every relationship they poisoned taught your heart to recognize pure love when it finally arrived. Every reputation they tried to destroy taught your spirit that your identity was never in their hands to begin with. They thought they were writing your obituary. They were actually writing your origin story. The nights you spent alone, questioning everything that wasn't abandonment. That was appointment time with the Almighty. The seasons when nobody called, nobody checked on you, nobody seemed to care, that wasn't neglect. That was divine selection. God was clearing the room so he could speak without interference. Your loneliness became your sanctuary. Your rejection became your redirection. Your brokenness became your breakthrough. But here's what they'll never understand. You didn't just survive what they did to you. You absorbed it, metabolized it, transformed it into wisdom they'll spend their whole lives trying to buy. You turned their poison into your power, their curse into your calling, their attack into your anointing. The very pain they inflicted became the source of your authority to speak healing into others. The betrayal they orchestrated became your qualification to spot liars from a mile away. The isolation they forced on you became your training ground for hearing God's voice above the noise. You became dangerous because of what they did to you, not in spite of it. Now when broken people see you, they don't just see someone who made it through. They see someone who was remade by the fire, someone who carries the scent of smoke and the glow of gold, someone who speaks their language because you learned it in the same school of hard knocks. Your scars became your credentials. Your wounds became your weapons. Your testimony became their lifeline. And the beautiful irony, the same people who tried to break you are now watching from the sidelines, wondering how you turned lead into gold, ashes into beauty, mourning into dancing. They're studying your moves, trying to decode your peace, desperate to bottle whatever you found in that dark place. But what you found can't be taught. It can only be earned through fire. You didn't just get through the storm. You learned to speak its language. You didn't just survive the attack. You mastered the art of alchemizing pain into power. You didn't just heal from the betrayal. You became a healer because of it. If you've ever said, "That pain changed me," now say this: "I was forged by fire they thought would consume me." Say it until you feel the weight of it. Declare it until you believe the depth of it. Proclaim it until every devil that tried to destroy you hears the sound of their own defeat echoing in your voice. Because chosen one, you didn't just survive the storm. You became the voice of thunder inside it. You didn't just endure the fire. You became the flame that lights the way for others still trapped in darkness. And what's coming next will show you exactly how to use every weapon they unknowingly forged in the furnace of your becoming. You became the voice of thunder inside the storm. And now the storm bows to your whisper. Chosen one, let me tell you who you are. Not who they said you were. Not who you thought you had to become. Who you actually are. You are the one who survived assassination attempts disguised as relationships. You are the soul who walked through spiritual warfare and came out carrying weapons they didn't even know existed. You are living proof that what the enemy meant for evil, God turned into raw, undiluted power. Your pain wasn't random. Your betrayal wasn't coincidence. Your isolation wasn't punishment. It was all testimony, evidence, a divine signature written in the language of suffering that only heaven could decode. Every tear you cried in secret became holy water, blessing your future. Every prayer you whispered in desperation became a direct line to the throne room. Every night you thought you wouldn't make it through became another notch in your spiritual belt of victory. You didn't just survive their attempts to erase you. You became the permanent ink in a story they tried to write in disappearing pencil. And now the door to that season slams shut. Not with bitterness, but with finality. You don't need closure from people who opened wounds. You don't need apologies from mouths that spoke curses. You don't need understanding from minds that chose confusion. That chapter is closed. That book is burned. That season is buried 6 feet under the foundation of who you're becoming. Because weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And chosen one, your morning has arrived. The sun is rising on a version of you they tried to prevent from ever existing. The scripture promised, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." You lived that verse. You breathed it through the fire. You proved it in the furnace. And now you stand as a living epistle, a walking testimony, a breathing miracle that makes demons nervous and angels applaud. So here's your spiritual declaration. Say this with me. Let it brand itself into your consciousness. Let it rewire every neuron they tried to scramble. I am not who my pain tried to make me. I am not who their lies said I was. I am who God forged me to be in the fire they lit. I carry divine power because I survived divine testing. I am chosen. I am crowned. I am unstoppable. Say it again. This time, let it sink deeper than their wounds ever went. I am not who my pain tried to make me. I am not who their lies said I was. I am who God forged me to be in the fire they lit. I carry divine power because I survived divine testing. I am chosen. I am crowned. I am unstoppable. One more time, let it echo in chambers of your soul they never had access to. I am not who my pain tried to make me. I am not who their lies said I was. I am who God forged me to be in the fire they lit. I carry divine power because I survived divine testing. I am chosen. I am crowned. I am unstoppable. If this message found you when you needed it most, that's not accident. That's appointment. If these words felt like they were written specifically for your story, they were. If something in your spirit is awake that was sleeping when this started, then the divine power is already activating. Share this with someone who needs to remember they're not broken, just breaking through. Someone who needs to know their pain had purpose. Someone who's still wondering if they'll ever feel powerful again. Because chosen ones don't just rise alone. We rise together. We heal in community. We build an army of survivors who became thrivers, victims who became victors, wounded warriors who became unstoppable forces of divine love. Drop "I am chosen" in the comments if you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving. If you're done asking why me, and ready to declare try me. If you're finished hiding your light, and ready to blind the darkness that tried to consume you. Your support through likes, shares, and donations doesn't just help this message reach more chosen ones. It's spiritual seed planting. You're not just giving. You're sowing light into dark places where other souls are still trapped, waiting for someone to tell them what you just remembered. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a divine power plant that they tried to shut down before you came online. But the power is on now. The lights are blazing, and the darkness has no choice but to flee. They tried to kill you in secret. God crowned you in public.